Okay, guys, welcome back to Let's Get Freaky podcast. I have got an awesome guest tonight, and we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that is the big man, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call him. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Maybe we'll talk about other stuff as well, but welcome to the podcast. We got Rod Nichols with us tonight from Bexar County Bigfoot. How are you, brother? Welcome, man.
It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, man. I'm just happy to be talking Bigfoot with you, man.
Let's go.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, let's go.
It's an honor to have you. Thank you for coming on,
Thank you.
man. I
Yes,
found you on
sir.
Instagram. You've got a lot of cool stuff on there. And obviously Bigfoot is one of my favorite subjects. So I try and follow
Absolutely.
as many Bigfoot accounts as I can. And especially with
Yeah.
guys like you that are out researching. And so for the listeners that don't know, do you just want to give a brief description of yourself and what
Sure.
got you into one of the coolest subjects, I would say, in the world?
You got it. So, I like a ton of other researchers, currently and before me, Patterson Gimlin film and to me is the cornerstone of Bigfoot research. It still has not been debunked because it's a real subject that's walking. It's not anybody in a suit. But for me, growing up, a Patterson Gimlin film was definitely the thing for me. And growing up, I grew up with shows like In Search of Leonard Nimoy, search of then you had Unsolved Mysteries, growing up. So you had these shows that were just really intriguing and amazing, and it just really just blossomed as a young guy. I say this to a lot of people. I think that as even as a younger person that wasn't a researcher at the time, but was very much enthusiastic about the subject and very interested in the subject. I want to say that I was a believer from just watching the Patty film, from a
Hmm.
young guy, and from there, I got into, which is some people would say not necessarily connected or is connected, the whole primate aspect. I got into primates, and mainly I got into the mountain gorillas in Africa, with Diane Fossey, and then that turned into studying Jane Goodall, with the chimpanzees. And then, as a young guy, I don't know if you remember Coco the gorilla. You remember Coco the
I
gorilla
do.
that can sign? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So as a young dude, I wrote to Coco, the gorilla, and she wrote back to me, and
Wow.
that just got me started on cryptids, because if you want to look back, way back, mountain gorillas were like a cryptid. They were
Hmm.
only talked about, and from what I understand, even I think primatologists maybe thought that there's no way that gorillas can go up that high in altitude, and lo and behold, we find these beautiful creatures out there that are
Hmm.
in higher altitudes, and then also too, if you want to get a little bit different, in Asia, we had the panda. The
Yeah, I
panda
was
was a
just
cryptid
going
as
to say
well.
that. Yeah, yeah.
There were stories about the panda until we finally had a subject, and we could study, and there was some documentation of these creatures. So I was into cryptids for a long time. In fact, we would have book fairs at school, and elementary school, in grade school, and I was the kid that was buying the Loch Ness Monster books, and I was buying Bigfoot books, and Loch Ness Monster was another one. I was
Hmm.
just enthralled. I wanted to. That was my dream, to go to Scotland. I really wanted to go to Scotland. My son got to go this
Oh,
last year
wow.
for. In fact, he went to London as well for
Oh,
about
wow. Cool,
for
man.
about 2 weeks, and then spent 2 weeks in Scotland as well. But uh,
Wow.
so I really was enthralled and enthusiastic and very much into this subject. I was totally ignorant to, what all that entailed, or what the evidence, or some of the researchers, had presented at that time. So, but nevertheless, it was something that was exciting to me, and that's really what got me started. And then, fast forward to my adult life, I was on disability from work. I couldn't work. So I had all this time. I was on long-term disability. I was going to be out for a while. So that left me home with nothing to do. And one night, I ended up binge watching a young man's. I say young man; he's probably about the same age as I am, or somewhere in that area. A gentleman's YouTube channel, and I think it was Utah Sasquatch or Sasquatch Utah, out of Utah, and he presented his trace evidence in the form of wood structures,
Hmm.
um, TPs, A-frames, things of that nature. And I watched, and it just blew me away because I had no idea that these types of structures were linked to cryptid activity as viable trace evidence.
Hmm.
And so looking at that going, whoa, what, this is insane. Like I never knew. I thought in my ignorant mind, I thought that maybe there was just one and it was up in Northern California or it was in Washington State and that was it. There's no way these things were in Texas. It was just one or maybe two or whatever. But come to find out, there is a population of these creatures that span from one end of the U.S. to the other, top to bottom, side to side.
Hmm.
And there are plenty of documented encounters from Class A, Class B, Class C. So you've got so much, and they're in the thousands. They're in the
Hmm.
thousands. But going back to this gentleman and his channel, I binge watched every single video that night. I think I stayed up till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning watching this. I mean, just glued to the TV, and just watching his videos. And the last video he posted on the channel, he gave you the tools or he gave you the methodology of what he used to find this so-called trace evidence, right? And so he said, hey, if you think that this is a hoax, you think that I'm doing this, or you think that people are doing this, here's how I find this trace evidence. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to equip you with the tools. You go out and go and see for yourself. And you tell me if you think this is a hoax, if you think this is not real, what have you. So I obliged. The next day, I got up.
Wow.
I took my son with me, and I followed the methodology. And that same day, we found a wood structure on that day, and
Wow.
it really I still get goosebumps thinking about it because you know you don't think in these terms as somebody with a carnal mind. You would like to believe that you're somebody who can think outside the box.
Hmm.
Until something outside the box is standing right in front of you or right in front of you, and you're going, no way. There's no way. And lo and behold, there was this beautiful A-frame structure with these bigger pieces. It wasn't very grand in stature, but it was wide enough to fit somebody, an adult person in there.
Hmm.
And on the floor of that A-frame structure, there was a bunch of compressed foliage, like something with weight had been sitting there or laying there. It was so flat and not fluffy. It was
Hmm.
very interesting, and the pieces were pretty good size. They were probably, I would say, 5 to 7 inches around, decent size. Some of them, I think, were maybe a little bit bigger. I would say maybe maybe almost 6 foot tall, and they were ripped out from somewhere. They didn't grow in that area,
Hmm.
and transported and fashioned into an A-frame structure. Some had some of the pieces, I think, still had the root system attached to them.
Hmm.
So and that was eye-opening. I couldn't believe it. I really thought there's going to be people that are going to come out with cameras and be like, aha, I got you, there you go. And it never happened. It never happened. And come to find
Wow.
out, all of these wilderness parks that were attached to this very prominent greenbelt creek that is very, I would say, very well known historically in San Antonio and in the county. It's called the Salado Creek, and it was used by the Native Americans as a highway to go in and out of San Antonio. Fur trappers used it as well. Early homesteaders. There was actually a battle, I think, after the Alamo that took place on the Salado Creek as well. So it was a historical creek And the one thing that stood out to me was the methodology that was given to me was if the habitat supports big game and there is a water source close by, I would say at least 3 to 4 miles away, if not closer, you could have a recipe for some cryptid activity. And so looking at the creek, I actually live a stone's throw away from that creek. I could literally throw a rock
Wow.
and hit that creek from my apartment right now.
Oh man, that's
So
cool.
so understanding that this is a prominent creek greenbelt, it's stretched from, from north and south. Like I would say, golly, how far does this thing? Maybe in excess of 20 miles. A long creek. It goes. I think it goes into other little towns too. I think it goes longer than that. So, it's a highway. It really was a high. And then the habitat that supports big game within that creek greenbelt, or the big game, rather, I would say, is white-tailed deer. And white-tailed deer are abundant here, right? And sometimes they have to control the population, and they have to tranquilize them, and then send them to other counties so they could go and flourish and live their life. But white-tailed deer, I mean, and they're not hunted in these wilderness parks. There's no camping in those wilderness parks at all. So again, we don't have any human activity in the wee early morning hours, and and then in the evening as well. So what's really going on in these parks at that time? I don't know, but what was fascinating was that I had literally the whole thing right behind me in my backyard, honestly. And so I took that Salado Creek and mapped it out, looked at the topography, and found that there were several different wilderness parks connected to that creek. So I went to that one park, found that one wood structure, and then mapped out another park connected to it, found more wood structures, more parks, more. So, every park had some type of trace evidence activity, and I had found some footprints as well. I did a few casts. Some of them were kind of more outlines because San Antonio, in our part of Texas, we have what's called hard pan ground. It's very hard. We have a layer of bedrock underneath our soil. So it's not like in contrast to Washington State, where it's probably a lot softer. You've got some plants that are growing in excess and flourish. Here it's kind of like they can grow, but it's going to be a little tough, and you've got that bedrock. So some of these outlines of footprints that I found were just blowing my mind, and we're talking like 13, 14 inches long, and maybe about 5 to 6 inches at the toe box. And so so now I'm thinking to myself, either this is probably the most well orchestrated hoax known to mankind, or we've got cryptid activity going on. And I tend to believe that we've got cryptid activity going on, and based off of the wood structure phenomena and the footprints that I have found. Also, too, these wood structures, I can take some of the trace evidence that I've documented in the form of these wood structures and put it up against somebody that found wood structures in Oregon or Washington State or Northern California or Arkansas or Oklahoma. So there's a likeness to different researchers that have documented these things. So again, the consistency shows that there may be some reliability to this cryptid activity, and I tend to believe that that's what's going on. And that's where I've kept it ever since. I've kind of dubbed myself as the wood structure guy. That's because that's a trace evidence that I find. And we've continued. My wife and I got married about 3 years ago, and so we've been out and checking out new parks and new areas. We do take some people that may have encounters or heard things, and we'll go out and investigate as well. So yeah, that's where it started, and that's where it's kind of been.
Man, that's awesome. That's literally the first day of investigating. You found something, and that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's insane. It really, and again, it was just a thing where I truly thought this was fake. Like this was somebody was doing this. And and here's what I do tell everybody.
Hmm.
I don't doubt that maybe there's people that can do some of these things.
Hmm.
People do weird stuff, you know what I mean? Like
Oh, for sure.
grounding, they walk, with no shoes on in the woods, and kind
Hmm.
of connect to nature and things like that.
But
But
14 inches, man, that's
right,
a big foot.
that's a big person, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
for sure.
but my other problem with that is this, because I get a lot of pushback, and the pushback I get is, Rod, there's no way that these creatures can go into suburban areas into San Antonio. There's no way. I'm like, really? You're speaking on behalf of a creature that we really know nothing about. So you've got
Hmm.
the answers.
Hmm.
You know, right? So, and nobody can speak to that, because nobody is, and I don't even claim to know everything, because I
Hmm.
don't. I'm a student. I don't consider myself an expert on any of this stuff. I'm always learning and evolving and trying to put the pieces together.
Hmm.
So some of these pieces I found have been in excess of 13, 14 feet long, and 8 to 10 inches
Hmm.
around. Huge trees with the root system still pulled, intact on
Hmm.
that tree, torn limb from limb, and a bunch of other pieces put together to make whatever type of wood structure it is.
Hmm.
So you got to ask yourself, okay, is it somebody that's incredibly strong, a team of people, a team of bodybuilders, strongman competitions, pulling trees out of the ground and just putting them together for no reason?
Yeah.
Because these wood structures, they don't keep out the rain, they don't keep out the wind, they don't keep out the sun, they don't keep
Hmm.
the elements out. So what's the purpose, and why would a human do that?
Hmm.
So then you got other people that would tell me, "Oh, Rod, it's kids." Okay, what kid at this day and age is going to get off their phone,
Exactly. That's yeah.
out in the woods, off
Hmm.
their video games, off social media, to go out in the woods and build little wood structures
Hmm.
that are in excess of 14-foot long pieces, and
Hmm.
really, really huge. Again,
Yeah.
and then the other pushback I get, well, it's bushcraft. Okay, let's go down that route, right? Have you seen a bushcraft shelter? It's a lot more consistent in size. There's
Hmm.
consistency. There's strategy to this. You know, the pieces are going to be cut. They're going to be the same length to
Hmm.
to make whatever they're trying to make. There's going to be uniformity. There is no uniformity to these things. They're very crudely built.
Hmm.
Again, that debunks. And then people say, well, it's homeless people. Again,
But you
what
never see
homeless
people.
person,
Yeah, you
you
never see
know?
people building them, and you never see
No,
people in them.
no.
They're just normally there, and it's
Yeah,
like, what are they there for? Like, and you
exactly.
get them in the UK as well. Like I find them in the UK, and I often think, like, who makes these? Like,
Right.
I don't think the scouts. I'm sure the scouts do stuff like that, but do you have the scouts in the US? Of course you do. That's where it
We
started, right?
do. We do.
And
I have yet to see one out in the woods.
yeah, yeah,
I don't.
exactly. Yeah.
I don't.
So, and then you get them, and it's like, what are they for? What do you think the structures are for? Do you think they're a marker? Do you think they're like a nest? What do you think they are using them for?
Brother, that is the $1 million question. You know,
Hmm.
um, I tend to believe, and I could be wrong. I think some of these might be used as markers.
Hmm.
I think some of them might be used, judging by the size, for maybe some of the little ones, the juveniles. My theory was that they utilize the creek greenbelt at night when nobody's around. There's lots of concealment, to do their hunt. Okay, so they'll go out, do their hunt, leave the little one concealed in that little wood structure, go get their kill, come back, pick the little one up, and then take off.
Interesting.
And it gets a lot more interesting, because San Antonio sits literally on top of an underground cavern. The whole city sits on several hundred cave systems.
Interesting, man.
Also, at the most northern part of that creek, there is two things. There is a military base that is vast. It is, I mean, there is thick woods. I mean, it is a beautiful area. I can't get on there, obviously, but it butts up. It goes right up into that military base. Also, that area before it gets in the military base, well, it stretches into that military base and beyond. It is an underground aquifer. So it's something called the Edwards Underground Aquifer Recharge Zone in that area. That is where San Antonio gets its water, from an underground aquifer. That's our water
Wow.
supply.
Okay.
So again, with using the creek greenbelt to hunt at night, have concealment, you've got plenty of whitetail. We've got a water source. Maybe, just maybe, they travel using these underground cave systems.
Hmm.
They may reside somewhere in there, because you can't tell me that the city government knows every nook and cranny.
No, no.
There's no way. Because
Yeah.
guess what? That underground aquifer, those underground cave systems stretch all the way to Austin, which is about an hour's drive from San Antonio. That's how far that underground.
Wow. Man,
So
I mean, and some people say, and I don't know this for sure, but some people say that the whole of the US is connected underground. Like you can go anywhere from the underground. I don't know how true that is, but yeah,
yeah,
that's what some people say.
yeah. I mean, it could be very well true, because again, if you look at history, there have been, let's take in Turkey, for instance. You've got
Mhm.
those, right? There's a
Yes.
whole city
Yeah.
underground, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like
For safety purposes, they didn't want to get persecuted. I think it was more of Christians that were residing in there. I think,
mhm.
and correct me if I'm wrong, to avoid persecution. But they created a whole underground city,
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
they can thrive, they can move, they can live, they can, whatever, so it's not far fetched to say that we've got a cryptid, number one, that's the apex predator. We're not the apex predator. We're
Mhm.
not. Number two, they are intelligent. They are intelligent, and the consistency of the behavior from encounter to encounter, it's
Mhm.
it's so consistent.
Yeah.
It's so consistent. And now we're starting to see, well, not starting to see, because Ron Moorhead has brought out his Sierra Sounds with some type of language that has yet to be
Yeah.
cracked, but it sounds like an Asian dialect of some
Mhm.
sort to me.
Mhm.
So now we've got a language, a possible language. We've got intelligence. We've got brute strength. We've got agility.
Mhm.
So we've got the perfect killing machine that has intelligence. So
Super soldier.
there you go.
Yeah,
Uh, you
man.
know,
I mean, we know that if a big cat, so for example, if a big cat's out there in the wilderness and it doesn't want to be found, it's very hard for us to find that big cat. You know,
absolutely.
we know that these predators can hide and that they can evade people. Like we know. So something that's even more intelligent than that maybe even
Yeah.
more intelligent than us. Of course they
Yes.
can. If they don't want to be found, of course they can stay away. And
They
every
don't
now and
want to be found.
again, we are getting glimpses because so many people see these things. There are some good footage out there, like the Patterson Gimlin film, which I
Yeah.
agree with you. For me, that was like, this is
Yeah.
real. I remember
Yeah.
seeing that as a kid, and it was actually in a book, in a Guinness World Records book that I had as a kid, and it was like the first time I'd seen it. And I just remember saying to my mum and dad, like, "Is this real?" And they were like, "Yeah, that's real." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Wow!" And it's just for me,
Yeah.
there's always been Bigfoot. It's like never been a doubt, like, you know.
No,
But
that's cool that your parents supported you in that way. They
yeah,
told you, like,
and
hey,
I don't
it's
know if
real.
they, yeah,
That's cool.
I don't know if they thought it was real or if they were just sort of like pleasing me as a kid. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
I
Hey.
remember having a conversation with my dad not long ago about the podcast, and because I talk about Bigfoot, talk about all paranormal stuff and all strangeness, high strangeness,
Yeah.
and my dad was like one of those that was like, yeah, but there's just one Bigfoot in the whole of America. It's probably not, and I'm like, Dad, there's thousands of them, man.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to. It's not just that Loch Ness story that
Absolutely.
there's one of these creatures that's been there
Right.
for thousands of years. You know,
Right.
when you really look into it, there's possibly hundreds of these creatures out there.
Yeah. I would also say the Paul Freeman footage
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
another viable piece of evidence that I think is largely overlooked. People
Yeah.
want to call that a hoax, but I can tell you this right now. One of my good friends is Michael Freeman, his son.
Wow.
We have become really good friends, and I think the world of him. And that
Hmm.
guy's he shoots you straight. You
Hmm.
know, he doesn't beat around the bush. He doesn't. He's not somebody who's going to BS you. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
and so you know, I think that the Freeman footage is right up
Yeah.
there with Patty as well. You know,
I
so
agree. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Has he carried on in his dad's legacy? Is he still out there researching?
You know, he is not really so much out there in the research realm as much as he is more on the symposium side, lecturing. He goes to a lot of conferences, and he wrote a book called The Freeman Files,
Hmm.
which to me it's an innovative book because you get a chance to buy this book, and it's got QR codes where you can read the book and then scan the code, and it gives you photos or videos that you don't have access to out there at all. Like, but you've got it in the form of this book, and
Hmm.
it's really cool. I recommend anybody
Wow.
that is into the subject buy the Freeman File. It's a great book, you know. So
Yeah, interesting, man.
yeah,
You said something interesting earlier as well about the gorillas and the pandas and the
yeah,
fact that probably, what was it, 100 years ago? It might have been longer than that, but
yeah. So
it's
something
not
like
been
that.
that long, like in our
Not been that
history.
long. Yeah,
And and
yeah,
and if you explain those creatures to people, if nobody knew what a gorilla was, no one knew what a panda was, and you were saying like there's this, super strong, or there's this black and white bear-like creature that's in the
yeah.
forest, and people would be like, no, no, if we've not found it now, no. I mean, I know.
Right.
So yeah, man, the possibilities are endless with this world. We sort of think that we know everything. But the fact is, we don't even know really what's in our skies. We don't really know
Yeah.
what's in our ocean. There's loads of stuff
Absolutely.
out there, man. That I don't know how anyone
Yeah.
can sort of dismiss at this stage anything.
No. And I would say that that's just human arrogance. We're
Yes.
arrogant. We're arrogant by nature. You
Hmm.
know, we think we've got it all figured. We don't. We
No,
don't.
no
We're we're
way.
we're we're like a tick on a dog, man.
Yeah.
We're we're minuscule, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you've just got to
So
look at the politicians at the top, man, and you know that nobody really knows what we're doing.
yeah, they don't even know what they're doing.
Exactly.
You know,
And they're
so
running the countries.
yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. So as far as going out, how often do you get out? How often are you out in the field?
As many days as I can get out. Whenever I've got free time, I'm
Hmm.
out. I'm so excuse me. So what I try to do is I have a good grasp on my areas.
Hmm.
Now, the areas that I speak of are the ones that I have documented over a course of 7 years of starting Bexar County Bigfoot and becoming a field researcher at that time. And so I keep tabs of the evolution of each area because these things change. Sometimes you'll find them knocked down, and then you'll come back a week later and something else is built back up and it's different.
Wow.
Sometimes you'll go up there and you'll see maybe something similar that was built and then something new because you got to really pay attention to the little nuances, the little details.
Hmm.
For me, what that was the palmetto leaves that were being used. They were being ripped out of the plant itself, which again is if you've tried to grab a handful of palmetto leaves and pull, you got to be strong to pull these leaves out. They are hard to rip out, right?
Hmm.
So you've got these palmetto leaves, and they're about yay long. They're kind of thin, you know, and they'll take them and weave them into the wood structure or make knots and
Wow.
fasten it from one piece of wood to the other and things like that. I have found some hair samples that were long.
Have you got them?
uh, I do have them. The only problem was at the time I did not realize that if you put them in a plastic bag that really hurts it. You need to put them like maybe in a paper bag.
Oh,
So
really?
I probably I
Oh,
probably knew.
man. Whenever you watch the science films, it's always a plastic bag.
Right. And so I was told, man, you got to let that stuff breathe. Put it in a paper bag That's what I was told. Plastic bag for so long. Well,
Yeah.
I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong. And if people see this and tell me different, please let me know. I think it tends to suffocate and kind of just kill the whatever DNA that's on it, things like
Oh,
that.
wow.
It can't be in there for a long period of time, from what I understand. So
Hmm.
but I have found some hair. I have found footprints.
Can I ask
You know,
what color the hair was?
the hair was like it was like a grayish, like a whitish, long, white
Okay.
looking, and it was probably about this long. And
Wow.
maybe I don't know. I was thinking because whenever I look at these things, I try to sit there and I go, okay, people, it's got to be people. Okay, let's look at this and let's see if it's people. Because I have to really debunk myself. I have to really
Hmm.
be careful of
Yeah.
how I approach this stuff. Because if I really want it to be Bigfoot, I can make it Bigfoot. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And pareidolia as well. That's another thing. So you have to be really careful with how you approach these types of trace evidence. Because again, if it's people, great. I'll be the first one to tell you, hey, you know what? It turns out that this was somebody that built this, and there you go.
Hmm.
I'll be the first one to admit it. But in the 7 years that I've been doing this, I have yet to see one person in my area when I walk up and go, oh, hey, hi, hi, don't mind me.
Yeah.
I'm just,
See. Yeah. Yeah. And
never,
you would, and you 100%
it's
would.
never happened.
Yeah.
It's never happened. So, that begs the question, who or what is doing this,
Yeah.
and how is it stretched across the U.S. and I think even on your continent as well, and
Yeah.
on the
There's
island,
reportings here, man. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Same thing.
You know,
I mean, I tend to lean towards the supernatural here in the UK with the Bigfoot, but I don't know. Obviously, I've talked to people that have seen these things, especially up in Scotland and places like that where there's a lot of empty space and stuff. But I tend to think if they're here in the UK, it's it's maybe more supernatural. But again, I don't know. That's just me
sure, yeah,
guessing.
and
Um,
I'm gonna throw something out there to you. I feel so here in the beginning when I started, I thought that it was just an undiscovered primate roaming around, and we haven't caught up with it yet. Now, this was this was me not looking into any encounters, listening to any podcast interviews, doing my research, none of that stuff. I thought, well, it's just a primate that's out there. We haven't caught up with it. That makes sense,
mhm.
until you have hundreds of encounters where people are saying, well, I saw this thing and then it disappeared right in front of me.
Hmm.
Or I saw this thing and then it kind of looked like it turned into like the predator type of thing and just kind of
Yeah, the cloaking. Yeah.
cloaking. Or I saw this creature, this Bigfoot like creature running, and there was an orb right in front of it, floating in front of it. I was running.
Hmm.
How do you explain those things? You can't, and to me you can't just sweep that under the rug.
No,
You
no,
can't. So
no.
as I got into it more and more and more, I got into more of the supernatural side of things. And for me, I'm a man of faith as well. And
Hmm.
so you know uh, if you look at it from some of that perspective as well, like I got into looking at the Book of Enoch.
Hmm.
We talk about the giants, the Nephilim. I think what the Raphaim, all that stuff. I I really feel like maybe we're looking at remnants of something supernatural that came, from the Nephilim, these fallen angels, and and again, that's something like you just said. I can't prove it. I don't know, but it just feels kind
Yeah,
of like that
yeah,
to
yeah,
me.
for sure, for sure.
So
Do you think it's possible that there is flesh and blood creatures out there that fit the description of Sasquatch, Dogman, and these type of creatures? There is,
mm,
but there is also a
yeah.
supernatural which may be very
Element,
similar, but yeah, or elements to
yeah,
some of these creatures that
yeah,
they can, camouflage themselves and
sure,
disappear into whatever other dimensions or whatever it is.
yeah.
Do you think that's a possibility that there's just different versions?
I think you're onto something there. I think that they are flesh and blood here.
Hmm.
I think some of them possess some supernatural. I think some of them may have a stronger supernatural, I want to say, bloodline or ability
Hmm.
than others. Just like my son plays drums, guitar, bass, and piano. I don't play anything. He's gifted. He's gifted.
Hmm. Yeah.
He's in two bands. He records his own music.
Wow.
You
That's
know,
cool.
I don't do any of that stuff. But he's got that. That's
Hmm.
in him.
Hmm.
He was made with that. You
Hmm.
know, so you've got, I think you've got some Sasquatch that are, that have certain abilities that others may not have.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and again, this is just speculation, like we're talking about, but and I'm basing all of this on encounters, first person encounters, and so what I have found that I think that Sasquatch, you'll out of the thousands, a few thousand encounters and sightings that people have had, you'll find that the consistency in behavior and mannerisms very, very much consistent. That tells me that these creatures exist because it's reliable in the consistency of the behavior.
Hmm. Yeah.
It tells me that. And also it's sprinkled in with some of these supernatural creatures, these encounters. So I came to that conclusion that some may have it and some may have more than others because of those encounters that I've studied and I've done my research on.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
man. It's very interesting, man. And going back to as well what you were saying about the caves, like a lot of people say that these things live underground and they come out to maybe catch food or find food or whatever. So that's an interesting concept as well. That there's this
yeah,
whole world. Like a lot of people talk about, like what is it, Hollow Earth and stuff like that, and that there's stuff.
yeah,
There could very well be things going on underneath us that we just
yeah.
other worlds and things like that. So I find
We
that
don't
very
know.
interesting as well, man. So
Yeah.
the park that's near you, that's right on your doorstep. What time do you have to be off that park? Is there a time limit where no one's allowed on there?
From dawn till dusk. When
That's
it's dawn,
interesting.
the gate opens up.
Yeah.
Dusk, it shuts. Now, here's what's really cool. I felt like, and this is before I was a researcher at all. I was a single guy, uh, and I lived in the same apartment complex, and I had gotten home from I went to the bar. I got home like about 2 o'clock in the morning, like you do. Had a good time,
Yeah, good times, man.
and and I got home, and I remember this distinctly. I, I wasn't on drugs. I was just drunk, kind of, So I got home, got dropped off, and I'm walking to my apartment, and the creek is, like I said, a stone's throw away. I can see it. There's trees. I can see where it kind of curves and things like that. And I'm walking, and I hear a blood curdling woman scream, like a female, like she is being murdered and hurt, and it was just loud. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what? It stopped me in my tracks. And my first instinct is to run and go help that person. That's just the way I was built. My dad brought me up that way. When you hear a
Mhm.
female, if a female's hurt, you go and you help. And I hear it, and I'm like, I hear it again, blood curdling and loud. I mean, it was loud. And I started running over to the creek. And right before I got to that edge of that creek, something internally said, stop, go home. Don't,
Whoa.
don't go any further. I stopped dead in my tracks, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. I need to go. I need to go home. Like I backtracked, left. And, and then come to find out, people that have had encounters, have heard, vocalizations, things like that. And some of them have said it sounds like a woman screaming, like she's being murdered. She's in pain. Somebody's hurting her, whatever. That's what it sounded like. And I thought, I, I think I heard something like that. But also understanding that foxes can make that type of noise as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
foxes
but
make some weird noises.
but the foxes that I've heard, now they can get a little loud. This thing had lung capacity. I mean, it resonated like I'd never heard anything like that in my life. So
Wow.
that's why I thought it was a human person, a female being hurt. And I ran, and again, something inside me was like, "Hey, man, go home. Like, get out, go home." And I did. I did. I followed what was inside. I said, "Go." I went,
Mhm.
and after getting into the field and examining vocals and things like that, I thought, my goodness, I may have had some kind of encounter, I guess, or whatever,
Yeah.
with this vocalization, and it really hit me hard because I'm like, whoa, I could have I could have been on the menu. I don't know, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been that something's trying to lead you in out there.
ooh, man, I
Damsel,
tell you
damsel in
what,
distress. I mean, you hear those stories. You
you
hear
hear
those
that,
stories
right?
of hearing women and children in the forest that are calling you out there.
Like
And
a baby crying.
yeah, yeah, baby
Yeah,
crying. And
yeah,
if you're walking by a forest and you're hearing a baby, I mean, that is obviously very strange. But as a man, you're going to want to go in and help if you can.
yeah,
But I think listening to your gut and knowing that that situation just didn't feel right, and that
yeah,
that's important, and it's probably a reason that you done that and you felt that, and it's good that you listened to that because, who
yeah.
knows? People go missing in the woods all the time, man.
Yeah,
And I
and
think,
and it's just kind of a thing that I really thank God that I didn't go any further.
mhm,
I don't know what I don't you don't know what could have happened,
yeah,
and that's what's so. And then fast forward to when I got married, and me and my wife have been married already well over a year, and I had a gentleman contact me on Instagram, wanted me to go investigate an area. His daughter had been walking. She has two full-grown huskies, two male huskies that she walks in this particular park. It's got a paved trail, like a sidewalk type of trail, and she runs, does her running and her exercising all up and down in that park. It's a wilderness park. It's connected to the Salado Creek, and she went through an area while she was jogging, and something screamed. She said it sounded like a scream and a growl at the same time. That it vocalized and it projected this vocalization at her and her dogs from behind some thick scrub brush. And scrub brush can be kind of thick, it's pretty, it can be pretty dense. And she said she had said it was so loud that it physically shook the brush. You can see the brush
oh,
moving, whether if it was the vocalization or whatever it was behind there, you know, pushing the brush around or whatever. The dogs absolutely wanted nothing to do with that area. They tucked tail and ran. And I think the gentleman had mentioned that these dogs, they're protectors. They will fight tooth and nail to the death,
mhm,
you
mhm,
know,
wow,
for their mom,
mhm,
and so they wanted nothing to do with this thing. And she took off and ran off. The dogs ran off. She got in the car and texted her dad what had happened. She had no answer for what it was. It just scared her to death. So he wanted me to
wow,
go out there. My wife and I went out there, and we found the general area. I don't believe I found the exact area, but I found a general area and then went a little further into a spot where the creek runs through, where people really don't go at all. And the water at that point in time is very clear. It's beautiful. It's out of a fresh spring. It's
mhm,
nice. There's freshwater clams in there. There's crayfish in there. There's some white-tailed deer out in that area as well. So the food source is there.
mhm,
So we're on the low ground, on the banks right here, and then the creek runs this way, and the water's this way, and then on the other side is another piece of land where it's thick and it's very well overgrown, and it's very heavy vegetation. It's beautiful. It is really. I've never seen San Antonio like this. It's really cool, and then there's a high ground about, I would say, about 12, maybe 14 feet up. There's a ridge up high. So
mhm,
we're walking on the low ground, and there's the high ground. There's another trail that runs parallel, right? And there's a bunch of little, like, smaller trees. They look like saplings, but there's a bunch of them. You can see the tree line at the top. So we start walking down on that bank, in that area, headed. I think we're headed more southeast, if I want to be exact. So headed southeast, and so we're just kind of just taking it easy and just walking and just trying to take in the sounds, just being quiet. I go to do. My wife goes to do a knock. We've got this big piece of oak, and pop, pop, right. So we stand there. We just kind of wait a little bit, and then we walk a little bit further. And she's probably about, I don't know, about 10 feet in front of me, something like that. And as we're walking, I notice that there's something on two legs paralleling us on the high ground. And the reason why I say that is because I could physically hear it, right? And then whatever this, if this was a person, I don't know, was shaking the trees. I could see the tops of the trees moving back and forth, boom, 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 and then walking, boom, 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 and following us, flanking us on the high ground. So I would go, I pulled up my camera, my phone. I got to document this. I pull out and I get the camera, I point it up to try to capture this activity, and it stops. Nothing. I put my phone away, it starts. I pull my phone out, it stops.
Whoa.
And so I'm freaking out because I'm sitting there going, what's going on? So when that's going on the other side, as we're just kind of just creeping a little bit, we hear two low guttural growls, low. And when I mean low, it resonated to where it felt like it rattled you in your chest, like it just went right through you and rattled you.
Mm-hmm.
It was too low, and it resonated kind of like I don't know if you're like a hip hop fan. You got
like
the 808 bass, right?
Yes, yeah.
Picture a guttural growl low that resonates like boo.
Whoa, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was on the other side of that creek. We couldn't see it. And it resonated. And she stopped and turned around and looked at me and said, "Did you effing hear that?" And I was like, "Yes, I did." And it was like, oh, we were dead in our track. We stopped. And I was like, okay, let's just back up and just kind of back up a little bit and just gracefully, slowly move away and go back to our car. And, I tell the story. I think I told it on Sasquatch Odyssey with Brian. Mm-hmm. And, one of the questions I think that when I want to say it was when he posted it, or somebody had said something, a comment that said, "Well, why didn't you pull out your phone, Rod, and record it?" And I'm like thinking, that's the last thing.
Yeah, of course.
That you think of.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about getting my wife out of there safely.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about, well, let me pull my phone out and just, you don't think about that stuff.
No.
So, but she was there, she heard it, and it was, in fact, I posted a video on my Instagram account. You can see it. It's one of the earlier, I posted it like maybe a month ago or something. So you can probably see it on Instagram, where she's talking about in her own words what she heard as well. And it was just insane. So,
wow.
And we've been going back to that area just to try to see what we can capture. And there are some wood structures, some significant snaps, tree snaps. And we're talking tree snaps that are like 12 foot up, like something with height just snapped the tops of these trees. And it was really interesting. So, I did a cast in that area as well. So,
wow. What size? What size was that?
Oh, man. I want to say it was probably about 14, 15 inches. I mean, it's a very narrow looking type of cast. And mm-hmm. I showed it to, I think I posted a picture of it, and Michael Freeman had said that it looked like maybe like a slide, like the heel slid. And that's why it looks kind of narrow.
Yeah.
Because the soil was a little bit softer in that area. And mm-hmm. I think it was a little, there was some moisture. I think maybe it had rained a little bit or something. And mm-hmm. I want to say that that's what it kind of looked. And when he said that, that made sense to me. So, but yeah, I took the cast, and it was just interesting. But that area, come to find out, I've had people that have come out of the woodwork that I don't even know that said, "Hey, yeah, I've been to that area, and I've heard a friend of mine had this experience there, and my cousin saw this," or so you know,
Interesting, man.
and it's all connected by one creek,
Yeah.
all connected.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything?
Hmm. I have not. I have not.
Not
No.
yet. Not yet.
Not yet. You know, here's what I feel like I have to do. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a little scared, but I think as a researcher, I want to push the envelope. I want to be smart about it, obviously. But I want to push the envelope and go out and do an overnight investigation
I was
in
going
one of
to
these
ask you
areas.
that. Yeah, I was going
Yeah,
to ask if you'd ever done that because
I have to. I've been putting it off, you know, and I get questions from my other colleagues like, dude, you got to go out at night. Like,
what is the consequences of that though? Because obviously, if it shuts at 9, are, are
oh, I
you
mean,
are
I
you
can get a
allowed to
fine.
go? Are you allowed to
I'll
go
get
in
a
there?
if I get caught.
Yeah, which you probably won't.
I don't condone breaking the law, by the way, guys. So um, if you're a young guy, please, please don't listen to me. Um, but uh, you know, I don't know. I can be stealth. I can, I think we can figure it out. I don't think they can. I don't think. I don't think I'd probably, knock on wood, get caught. But
Mhm.
if I did, it'd probably be like a $200 fine or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
That's in the name of what I'm doing. I'll be okay with that. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
obviously, so from 9 o'clock till dawn, you're not allowed. You're not meant to be on there. I'm
Yeah.
sure people do go on there, but the conspiracy sometimes with the national parks is that the reason why they do that is probably a maybe because of safety. People can get
Sure.
hurt easier at night. Yeah, that makes sense. And B that these things are allowed to come out at night. And that I know that's the
Yeah.
conspiracy. And again,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you could be right. I don't. I'm of the mindset. This is my mantra with all of this. If you're open to some of it, you have to be open to all of it.
100%. Yeah.
I can't take one piece to fit my narrative and then spin it to you and go, well, that's what's going on.
Hmm.
Well, you're missing the whole picture.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
you're open to some of it, you have to be open to all of it. That's
Yeah.
just
No, I
that's
agree. I agree.
yeah,
100%. Because obviously in the Bigfoot world, the big thing for some people is like the flesh and blood versus the supernatural. And sometimes there's,
yeah.
a bit of friction there, which I've never really understood
Oh
that
yeah.
because we all
I never
just,
understood that either.
nah, we all just want the
Yeah.
answers. We're all just in,
Yeah.
there's clearly something going on. A lot of people are seeing orbs, as you said, orbs
Yeah.
and stuff like that seem to be connected to these things because so many
Yeah.
people see it. So
Yeah.
there's got to be something to it, man.
And within the time that from my wife, dating my wife and then, getting married, within that time, we had witnessed within, gosh, a 7-month period, I want to say, 3 UFOs we had both seen.
Let's
Uh,
go.
is that connected? I don't know, but one of them was at night, and it was a huge triangle, and there was a light here, and light here, and it was. Now we went to this restaurant that we used to go to a lot. It's out of the county, and it's in a rural area. It's a very historical area, uh, and it's at night. It's pitch black. I mean, it's a country. You know what I'm saying? So I was walking outside, following my youngest daughter and my wife, and then I was talking to the bar manager as we're walking outside because I guess he was going to do something, and I was asking him about certain aspects of the restaurant and how historical it was and the family that owned it, blah 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 and stuff. And my wife and my daughter were like, look up, look up, look up, look up. And I'm like, hold on, let me talk to this guy. No, no, look up. And then he looks up and goes, oh, you need to look up. And I'm like, I look up and there's this triangle. This triangle is black. It blacked out the black, like the sky. Like it was blacker than the color black. It was crazy. And it was just coasting. It was huge. It looked like it might have been like a football field long. Like it was huge to me.
Whoa.
And it was just coasting. And I saw the light at the front and then the light on one side and the other. It was coasting. And that bar manager was like, bro, lights just don't look like that.
Yeah.
We were standing there just going, holy crap, like what is this? I took on my phone and caught a snippet of it about 30 seconds, and it was insane.
You
So
got it on your phone.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, is that on
I got
Instagram? I've got to see that, man.
I think so. And if it isn't, I'll send you the snippet.
Oh,
Uh
wow. Yeah, I've got to see that.
so then a few months after that, like I want to say like maybe 3 months, we're driving to my wife's parents' house, and we're passing by a mall on a highway that loops inside the city. It goes all the way around the city, and we're driving west. Yeah, we're going west, and we're looking at this. I'm just kind of passing by the mall, and my wife goes, "What? Look at this! Look at this!" So I'm trying to drive, and I'm like looking, like I don't want to wreck or anything, So uh, I look up, and there's this like weird looking type of it looked like a cylinder of some sort it looked like it was just stuck in the sky, like
Hmm.
it was just stationary, like there. And part of it looked like it was coming down, and then another part of it just stopped. It was weird, and it was kind of over this mall. I mean, several feet or yards up. I mean, it was way up there, but we can see it. It was a clear day, and we went into the parking lot of that mall, and I pulled out my phone, and I took video of that, and that was really odd. And then
Wow.
a few months after that, we're driving home in front of because I live like a mile down from where my youngest daughter goes to high school, and then it's the same high school I graduated from. So we live like a mile down from that high school, and across from the high school is Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I remember passing, kind of getting approaching that Kentucky Fried Chicken, and my wife's like, "What? What is that? Is that a balloon? Is that a Mylar balloon? What's going on?" She was just trying to rationalize it, and I look up and I see this thing, and it's like a metallic, um, not like a triangle, but like a three-dimensional looking type of triangle or something like that, and it was spinning like this, and it would move this
Whoa.
way and spin, and then it would move that way, and I thought
Wow.
that's a balloon. So we stopped into the parking lot of that KFC, and I looked up and I took a video of that, and I sat there and I thought, if that was a balloon, it would be ascending. It would be going up, 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 up. This thing kind of just hung out, spun, and then moved a little bit this way, spun, and then moved a little bit this way, and then it was just kind of moving and hovering around, but it spun. It spun all the time, and
Whoa.
it was all metallic. And it's very interesting that we're out there, researching, Sasquatch, trace evidence, things like that, and then in the mix, within, I would say, 8 months, we saw three UFOs together.
Wow.
And I mean, and you can dive deep into that rabbit hole, go, well, you guys are connected in a certain way, and you're seeing things that maybe you're meant to see
Hmm.
because you guys are connected in some spiritual way, and that's I don't know, whatever the case is. I just know that I don't feel like it was a coincidence.
Hmm.
Who sees three UFOs like that within 8 months, like, of each
Yeah,
other? I don't
no.
I don't know anybody. I mean, I could be wrong,
Hmm.
unless they've been abducted or whatever. Unless I've been abducted, I
Yeah,
don't know. But
was there
you
missing
know,
time?
I don't feel like there was. I will say this though: when we saw the triangle
Hmm.
out in the country, we tried to follow it, and it just disappeared, which was very interesting because it was such a huge ship looking
Yeah,
thing.
wow, a
Like,
football size. Yeah, football pitch
and
size.
and so when we got back into the city, off the main road, this main road that takes us right to our apartment complex. Surprising enough, it's just one street that we go up and down out of the city. There's a part where it turns into a bridge. It crosses over a highway, another loop highway, going back to our apartment. Um, we were driving, and all of a sudden, there's these feeder roads on this either side that could run, east, west, north, south, whatever. And there's an access highway here, and then we're crossing over the bridge, and underneath is another highway. So there's a stoplight at that bridge where you stop, and then you let the access road traffic go through, and then you keep on going, on your way. And so I I felt like we needed to stop at this. I could have punched it at this orange light and just got through, but thank God I didn't, because these people that went through just got T-boned hard by this other car, and this car was flying. It was like it was going way too fast, and boom, it just took out this car.
Mm-hmm.
And these poor people that were there, they were elderly people. We got them out of the car, and I tried to chase down the guy that hit them, because he got out of the car, started running, and I ran after him. Couldn't find him, but I can't help but to think that it felt part of the experience. I don't know why. It was
Mm-hmm.
such an odd
Like
night.
you got that could have been you guys.
Right. Like I don't know. Had we not seen and stopped
Yeah.
that, is, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that
no,
little
man.
bit, I
Yeah.
don't know. It was
The
really, really odd.
the more I look into this stuff and the more people I talk to, and I've said this before on the show, but I really don't believe in coincidences anymore. Like, because
No, I don't.
there's too many like that, and
No.
it can't always be a coincidence, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's a coincidence. Yeah, it's a coincidence. Can't be, man.
I
And I
don't think
think as
so.
when you know as well, and this is something else that I'm sort of like, that felt connected to the other stuff that you'd seen and experienced, and I think
Yeah.
there's something to that knowing. Like
Yeah.
I think we just know. I don't know how, but there just
Right.
seems to be something. There's something there going on, man.
Something.
So interesting.
Yeah. And so, within Sasquatch research, we've had some events happen that, we just can't explain, and
Mhm.
it's very interesting. But if you want to go a little bit further back in my history, I can tell you a little bit more of
Yeah,
some. Okay,
100%. If you don't mind, man. Yeah,
so
for sure.
I grew up in a it's South Texas. It's predominantly Hispanic, of Mexican descent. That's what I am. Even though my last name is English and Welsh, uh, I I'm of Hispanic and Mexican descent. Uh, so growing up, the grandmother is the matriarch, and she rules the roost, man. You don't mess with grandma. And my grandmother, for many years, read tarot to different clients, and she had a lot of business that people really loved what she did. And she had a room inside her house called the reading room, and that consisted of, a desk, and she had her cards, and she had these different images, on the walls. One of them was like the seven African powers. There was different types of just really interesting. And when you walked into her home, she automatically, on the left hand side, there was a closet that where the door was taken out, so it was just like an open closet. And there she had all these different idols, saints, and just different, where you give money to this idol here, and it could give you blah blah blah, or all of these things that were in the home. And she read tarot, and so it wasn't very it was common to go in as a child, and spend the night at my grandmother's house, and see a different car in the driveway, and it's a client that was in the reading room, and my grandmother was doing a tarot reading.
Hmm.
And there was people that I met all the time. Some were regular, some were new, but I always met somebody different. And so being a curious kid, with my other cousin, she was a female. One day we were at my grandmother's house, staying, because my mom worked a lot, and her mom did too as well, my aunt. And we went into the shed in the backyard, because that's where all of my uncle's old toys were, and we wanted to see because they had GI Joes back in the day. Like, it was just awesome. So we wanted to go and play with the toys in the shed. So we're in the shed and we're kind of digging through stuff, and I pull out this book, and it was probably about yay big, that wide, and it was a hardback book. I remember that. I think it was kind of like a brownish color. I don't think it had a illustration cover. It was kind of plain. Looked like it was like a canvas type of bonding. And I started opening it up. And when I opened it up, I automatically opened to a frame by frame scene. So I don't know how old you are, but when you have, okay, so books, they would have these scenes, frame one, frame two, and they would make a motion, right? So if I was running, frame one, frame two, frame, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could see the motion, right? So I'm looking at this frame by frame scene, and the first thing I see is this man laying down, what looks like a concrete floor. He's laying on top of a big pentagram. That's on the pentagram's right here. He's laying on top of it. There's candles all around this pentagram. He's got no shirt on, and he's laying like this. And then the next frame is another man, like in a cloak, a dark cloak, and he's got his hand like this. And then the frame goes this, and here's the man, and plunges his hand into the man's chest. And then frame by frame pulls out his heart. And there's blood and stuff just coming out. And he holds the man's heart up like this. And that's the last frame. And I didn't go any further into that book because it scared the heck out of me, because I was like 9 or 8 years old, So we saw that, and I was just like, whoa, this scared me. And we never spoke about it. Ever since. I yet to talk to my cousin about any of that stuff, because sometimes you just don't want to you don't want to talk about it. But I remember distinctly seeing that and just going, there's something wrong with this. Like, this is not good. Like, this is terrible. And whether it was fake or not, I don't know. It could have been.
So what did it look like? It wasn't like a drawing. This was like
no, it was photos. It was photos. Frame one, frame two, frame.
Whoa.
It was not an illustration. It was a photo, black and white photos. And
whoa.
Yeah, so remembering that, going, this is weird. And then remembering I would take a shower in my grandmother's shower. She had the best bedding, best sheets in the beginning. It was great. And if you were a grandson, you were a king.
Yeah.
You could do no wrong, right? So I got my grandmother
grandmas are the best.
She was, yeah. And so I remember taking a shower in her bathroom because her bathroom was so nice and she had the good shower and all that stuff. And I remember distinctly hearing voices, like a conversation in the drain of the shower. And I thought, am I hearing stuff? I heard voices in the drain. And I sat there and I thought, who's talking to me? there was voices in the drain. And I would stand there while the water's running. I'm going, is it the water, the way the water's running into the drain? But I could almost make out words, and it was it was very much like a, it was like different, like talking back and forth to each other. It was really weird. And I got out and I told my grandmother, I said, hey, I don't want to sound crazy, but there's people talking in the drain. She's like, oh, it's okay. It's just the water. And I'm like, I heard voices. I think I heard words. I heard somebody talking to somebody else and that person responding, and then, I remember going into playing in the living room, and the living room at my grandmother's house was very much, the plastic, on the couch, and it was a living room that you didn't live in. You didn't touch stuff.
Yeah.
You didn't touch stuff. So I would play on the carpet with my little, Hot Wheels cars, and I remember setting them up in a certain way and, just kind of doing my thing, and then getting called to go eat in the dining room. So I went and, I went to go eat, and I came back only to find my cars that I had meticulously put in a certain type of way, just in disarray.
Whoa.
Like cars all over the place. And I'm like, hey man, who's doing it? I went over, I told my grandma, I was like, did you go over there and just like knock my cars around? And he's like, no, I didn't
Nah,
do that.
grandma wouldn't do that.
I'm like, whoa, what's going on? You know? So there were little things that I remember as a child,
Hmm.
growing up. I remember one, we had a yard sale, and I was there. My grandmother had all her stuff out. My mom had her stuff out, and we were just there hanging out. I think I was like 13, 14. I think it was in high school. My grandmother says, hey, I want you to have this. And she pulls out this triangle piece of like, looked like ivory. And it was smaller than this, but it was like a triangle, and it had an eye at the bottom of it, like a brown, or what was it? Like a dark colored eye. It was like a human eye right here. And then at the top here on this part, it had the symbol for the human and for the female and the male,
Hmm.
the symbol, right? It was about that big, carved out of ivory. And she said, take this. It's the all-seeing eye, and it will protect you. So, I mean, of course, I'm not going to challenge, my grandmother. So I'm like, yeah, okay. I took it, I put it in my pocket, and then later on, my mom found it, and she was like, what is this? Who gave you this? I'm like, Grandma. She's like, give it to me. It was like, get out. So, I mean,
Whoa.
so there were certain things that I can pinpoint in my life. I remember distinctly,
Hmm.
uh, that have been strange, that have happened around me, to me.
Hmm.
So, getting into the Bigfoot and even the Dogman phenomena and all that stuff, UFOs, it was almost like I naturally gravitated
Hmm.
towards that stuff. Like something inside me was like, this is where you belong,
Yeah.
type of thing. And, that's kind of been where I've left it, with the other, with the cryptid side of things. And it's been very interesting, but
Yeah, man.
the Dogman stuff too, uh, I was very, very fortunate enough to be in the Small Town Monsters book, the Dogman Triangle, Werewolves in Texas. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
I made friends. Aaron Dees is one of my good friends. He
Yeah. I've
lives
had
in
Aaron and
he
Heather
lives
have been on the show. They're awesome.
yeah, yeah, he lives in San Antonio as well, and we keep in touch. I've taken him out with me to see some of these wood structures as well, and he's been like, "Whoa, this is interesting." But he put me in his book, because there was a print that I had found near one of these wood structures, that I guess lines up with an alleged Dogman print from other people that have seen these creatures and have
Whoa.
documented prints as well. So he put me in the book, and
Interesting, man.
very cool. Very gracious of him to do that. I
Yeah.
will always be eternally grateful to him
That,
for that. So,
they are cool. All the guys at Small Town Monsters are cool.
oh,
I love their work, man.
I sing their praises because they are just they do such good stuff. They
Yeah,
really do.
100%.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, 100%, man. That's wild though. So I've got so many questions now.
yeah, go for
I'm
it.
sorry.
Go
Have you
for it.
got more time? I know we're getting near to the
No,
top.
I do.
Awesome.
That's fine.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I've written Dogman down so I don't forget that. I want to go back to that, but I want to go back to your grandma's house as well because
Yeah,
there's a lot going on there. I
yeah.
mean, that's pretty wild. Firstly, what do you think that book was? Like, have you any idea what that book could be if you was to guess?
It was a satanic book.
Yeah.
There was no question about it. That was about as satanic as it got. A pentagram that was inverted, with a man laying on top of it, and another man pulling out his heart out of his chest. That that that's satanic. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
you know
for
what I mean. Like,
sure.
um,
But that wasn't your grandma's book, or was it your grandma's book?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want
I don't know. You know what's interesting? Here's another thing. Before my grandmother passed, she died. She was in her 90s. She lived a long life. She
Hmm.
was a she was a firecracker, man. I mean, this lady, she lived such a hard life, man. Her story. She was a vaudevillian. She was in vaudeville, She sang and danced and traveled
Wow.
all around the United States, singing and dancing, in vaudeville, I guess performances, things like that. So
Hmm.
she was used to being in the limelight a little bit too, and but she was a businesswoman, and you couldn't put one on her, man. She was sharp. But
Hmm.
I remember her telling me before she passed, um, that there was one time where she was just, she was physically not feeling well, and she laid into her bed and just was just trying to just relax. And she said, she called them her little angels. She said there's little orbs that were just floating around her, and she felt like they were healing her. They were her angels. She told me she felt like, these were these little orbs that were just kind of, um, healing her, and I guess, I don't know, communicating with her. I'm
Hmm.
not sure, but I found that very interesting as
Yeah.
well.
Did you see them?
Um, I've never, no, I've never seen anything like that. The only thing I've experienced were the voices,
Hmm.
and then, my toys being thrown around, and then that book.
Yeah, that's wild.
Um, my aunt, when I was younger, had an experience. We had a family gathering at her house, and she went to go use the restroom, was washing her hands, and was it she was washing her hands or going to wash her hands, and the water turned on by itself, and the door just conveniently locked. It wouldn't let her out,
Oh
and
man.
yeah, and that was kind of a big deal because it freaked her out. And I remember, hearing that, and going, "Whoa, what's wrong with Aunt Helen? Like, she's freaking out. Like, why can't she open the door?
Yeah.
It's like, something
Man.
wouldn't let her." Yeah. So I mean, I think it was safe to say that there's paranormal activity in that house, and now
Hmm.
my uncle owns that house, and he has taken on the trade of reading tarot as well.
Oh, okay.
So he's carried on that, I guess, that legacy, if you want to call it that.
Is there still activity going on in there? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't been there. I haven't been there in quite some time. I keep in touch with them, on birthdays and things like that. But
Hmm.
life gets in the way.
Oh,
I
for
mean, like,
sure. Yeah,
I'm just.
100%, man.
But you know what? Because now my wife and I are equipped with like a couple of ghost meters, and some spirit boxes and things like that. So, um, I don't know. Maybe if he's open to it, maybe we.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Man, well,
So
it's like your mum obviously didn't like what you had. She obviously maybe saw some symbols on there that she didn't like, and that's why she made you get rid of it.
my mom was not having it.
Yeah.
She. It's almost like she just understood, like, this. I don't want my child
Hmm.
exposed to this stuff. Like, she knew,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm very fortunate that I had a mother that was very proactive and not just going with it. She put her foot down,
Hmm.
and I'm very grateful for that, because
Yeah. You don't know how
she
these
could have
things can
she
progress. Yeah.
yeah, she could have, these things could have attached itself to me.
Hmm.
I don't know. We
Hmm.
don't know what we're messing with. Is it grandpa from the grave? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm. Hmm. For sure.
it could be a demon that's lying to you.
Hmm. Yeah, man.
There's no way to prove if it's your great uncle from,
Hmm.
you don't
100%.
know. So,
100%.
yeah, I'm very lucky, and I'm very fortunate to have a mom that was very proactive and very sensitive to that. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
I mean, it sounds like, there was stuff going on there, maybe, I don't know,
Uh,
conjuring
yeah,
some stuff up that
paranormal for
the
sure,
voices
man.
that you heard, and obviously the poltergeist activity. Scary
Yeah.
stuff, man.
You don't forget those things.
No, of course, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's probably things in your life that you remember when you were a little,
Oh man.
and you go, no, I remember
Yeah.
exactly what happened. I may have been 7 years old, but I remember.
Hmm. Yeah,
You
100%,
know,
man. 100%. Yeah, and those experiences stay with you. And I think obviously the more open you are, I think, and the more you
yeah,
accept it,
yeah,
the more you're going to experience and why it carries on.
yeah,
I mean, maybe
yeah,
those UFOs that you saw, because I've seen UFOs, what I would call UFOs in the sky.
Yeah.
Don't know what they are. I've seen a lot of strange things, but
Right.
are we open to it? And is that why we see it? You know, I don't
Right.
know. I
Right.
don't know. I know obviously we're with what you do, we're always looking for this sort of stuff. So chances
Sure.
are, if you're looking, you're going to see it. You're going to see some
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. And I think that I think also too that I think if you approach it, dare I say, childlike in nature,
Hmm.
you'll probably experience something. If you approach it in kind of a naive fashion, you know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Uh, I'm not out there like, okay, let's, put this meter up and let's do this, let's try to capture, I don't know. But if I'm out there just kind of, okay, I'm just gonna
Mhm.
kind of just take in the sounds and the feel and the sights and the senses, and I'm
Hmm.
just gonna just walk and let's see what happens. Let's just what am I open to here? Let's just kind of,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of
yeah.
these experiences that people have happen when they're not expecting them. You know, when you're not looking for it,
Yeah,
when you're not out investigating. You know, and that's a lot of the
very
time.
true.
That's when these things happen. It's
Very true.
interesting, man. I've got to go back to the Dogman footprint now.
Sure.
I
Sure.
can't not talk about that. So you was out obviously Bigfoot researching, and you found a
Yes.
print of a paw.
Yeah, let me tell you the backstory on that. Just to give you the context here.
Hmm.
Uh, so we're out at a wilderness park, where we're at an area where it's very flat, and a lot of people bring like their kites and their RC cars, remote control cars, and dare I say drones out there, people have picnics and stuff. It's a very cool spot. It's very flat, it's beautiful, and we just wanted to have family time, just kind of hang out and just be family. And my youngest daughter finds some tracks. Well, she comes and she says, "Hey, look, there's tracks over here." And I'm like, "No, you're a kid, you don't know what you're talking about, right?" Boy, was I wrong. um, she was at it. She's like, "No, no, look." And I'm like, "All right, I'll get up and And so for me, I'm sitting there going, Rod, it's family time. Shut it off, dude. Like, well, I found out that I can't do that. I can't.
Yeah.
It's just part of me, So we get up to investigate, and lo and behold, there's some outlines, there's some tracks. Now they weren't deep enough to cast, but they were. It was apparent that something had been walking in that flat area in a linear fashion. So these prints were not like how we walk, right? Where we walk like this, right?
Hmm.
Right? This, like that, like that. Okay. So uh I see them and I'm just like, I'm kind of skeptical. I'm like, this is odd, but okay, let's go with this. Let's see. So we follow them. We follow the tracks, and it goes out of that flat area up into a little bit higher of a ground, and then it goes down into what's called a holler, all the way down into this holler. Okay, so we go further down, and in this holler, there's these nice trees, and it produces this really big, uh, uh, um, this really nice canopy. There's not much, a whole lot of light that goes through it because all the foliage, it's just beautiful canopy that's in this holler. So we go down into this holler, and we find some of the, I think some of the grandest wood structures I've ever seen in my life. And I'm just sitting there going, what did we stumble upon? Like, these things were tall. They had these trees had the root system still attached. Some of them were in TP fashion, A-frame. Some of them were like a wigwam. I mean, it was just wow. We were just looking. Oh, there's one there. Oh, there's one. We were just like freaking out, going, "Are you? What is like? Wow, this is weird." So I'm marveling at all these wood structures, and I'm just like, this is insane. So I get my phone immediately. I have the presence of mind to do it because I wasn't even thinking. I'm just following my kid. And so I pull out my phone. I'm just like, oh my gosh, look, this is crazy. Like, we're just looking at this stuff. And it starts to get dark and dusky, and it's the sun's almost down, and in that canopy, it gets dark. And the one thing I remember was that uh, my daughter and even I think even my wife was sitting there going, "Hey, let's get out of here. Let's go. Let's we need to go." Like very adamant about
Hmm.
leaving. And I thought, "Well, what's going? Hold on. Let's just let me stay a while and let me look at this." And again, no, we got to leave right now, right now, right now. Almost to the point where I think it almost seemed like they were gonna like start crying. Like it was like very kind of emotional. I'm like, oh, what's wrong? What's going on with you? And then my youngest says, I feel like there's something staring at me. I feel like I'm being watched, and it doesn't feel good at all. It feels ugly. And then I think even my wife was like, yeah, I feel like I'm being watched, like I'm being stared at. Like it doesn't feel good at all. It feels ugly, and they're just almost crying. And I'm just like, okay, all right, let's get out of here. I believe you. Let's get out of here. And as we're getting up over out of that holler, I happen to look down, I guess just at the right time. And I don't know what made me do this. It's just out of, I think it's just out of habit or just it's instinct, for me to just go, oh, you know,
Yeah.
and I look down and there is this print that looks kind of like a canine print. And it was maybe about that big. It was a big size
Hmm.
looking cane. And I remember sitting there going, golly, that's a huge dog. What kind of a dog would be out here that big? Like that is insane. So I took a picture of it and I had the presence of mind to put my boot right next to it and take a picture as well and put my hand, boom, boom, boom. And I took it, didn't really think that much of it, and we got out because they were not feeling right at all. So we got out, got in the car, took off. I'm
Hmm.
looking at this photo and I'm like, this is really odd. This looks really odd. So, immediately I text Aaron. I said, hey, dude, I was like, I have a print here that just looks really off, looks really weird to me, and I want to send it to you. He's like, yeah, send it over, send it over. And he's like, dude, oh my gosh. And I'm like, what? He's like, wow, this is insane. I'm like, what? And he alluded to that it lined up with some of the trace evidence or the alleged prints that they had found through their investigations from people that had encounters with these dogmen. Um, and he said, "Can you send that to me?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, you can have it." Like I'm a Bigfoot researcher. I'm not a dog man. That whole thing. Um, and so I sent it to him, and next thing I know, he's like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna put you in my book.
Wow.
I want to use the photo." So the next thing I know after that is that I'm signing, the consent papers to use my name and use the photo and to use
Wow.
all that stuff, and it made it into the Dogman Triangle, the book, the Small Town Monsters book, and then it made it into the movie as well. The
Yes.
Dogman, yeah.
Yes, man. Oh, wow.
So when you hear Shannon LeGros kind of almost towards the end
Hmm.
of the movie, she's asking Aaron, "Do you know anybody else in Texas that may have some evidence?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's one gentleman in San Antonio who has documented a print, and they show my print." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." So
That is cool, man.
yeah, yeah, man,
Wow.
really cool.
That's so interesting. And it's interesting as well because, like the Bigfoot, and I would say even more with Dogman stuff that you hear, there does really seem to be a supernatural element to these things. I
There
mean,
is,
and the
there is,
fact that your daughter and your wife and you felt that you needed to get out of there,
yeah. They were
that
very
fits
adamant.
with, yeah, man, that
It was
fits with the
fear.
supernatural. Yeah.
It was fear. And here's why I'm going to tell you I believe these things are fully supernatural. Uh, because the ecosystem would not be able to accommodate a Sasquatch and a Dogman. They would decimate,
Interesting. Yes. Yeah.
right?
If they were both flesh and blood,
Right.
they would
If we're
be
talking about that,
enemies.
yeah, exactly. So there would be no way if these dogmen were truly flesh and blood
Hmm.
coinciding or coexisting with Sasquatch, they would decimate a habitat. I mean, there
100%.
would be
Yeah.
nothing left.
It'd be all out
So
war. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Interesting, man.
yeah, it was, and so that also brought up a question within myself. And I told my wife this. I said, wouldn't it be interesting this whole time? I'm not chasing a Sasquatch. We're chasing Dogman.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, man. Yeah. Because, I mean,
because and I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, it's cool, man.
if you listen to if you listen to Bigfoot Society, if you listen to Sasquatch Odyssey, Sasquatch Chronicles, if you listen to any of even the other Dogman show podcast with that gentleman, he does a great job. I think it's Dogman Encounters or something like that.
Hmm.
Strange Familiars,
Yeah.
any what I would say are From the Shadows pod, any of those podcasts that have a good following, a big following,
Hmm.
and you hear these first person encounters of what they see, whether if it's a Dogman or a Sasquatch. Some of them, and I'm not gonna. Well, let me back up. I'm not gonna say some of them. A lot of them will say, "Oh man, I live in this rural area, and I was out in the woods on my property, and I saw this weird looking teepee or this weird looking wood thing that looked like some kids put together. And oh man, this Bigfoot or this Dogman came out like
Hmm.
around or in the area of where this wood structure was, and they have their encounter and their sighting."
Hmm.
So again, if we're talking about Sasquatch, Dogman, in connected to these wood structures, you'll find that some of these encounters, if you hear these people, that whether if they're at a state park, wilderness park, they're on their property, they're somebody else's property, whatever it is in a rural area, that's got wilderness. A lot of them will say, "Well, yeah, I found this weird looking wood thing, and it looked like kids put it together, and oh man, there's
Hmm.
a Sasquatch." Like, why
Yeah.
is that? They're
Yeah.
they're connected somehow, and so
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the sightings are very similar. Dogman and Sasquatch sightings very similar. Yeah, and I often think are sometimes Bigfoot and Dogman maybe someone's seeing a Bigfoot and they call it a Dogman, or someone's seeing a Dogman and they're
sure,
calling it a Bigfoot.
yeah,
It's probably hard to tell sometimes, but
it
yeah,
is.
man.
I would say it is. And there is a gentleman who is no longer in the field anymore, and I think he did wonderful work. He went by the name of Matt Squatch, Matt Squatch, and he took the time to I guess uh, put these creatures in different types: type A, type B, type C, right? So
Hmm.
type A would be like the patty type, big in stature, maybe 10 foot tall, looks more like a gorilla type of thing. Type B would be more of like your chimpanzee looking face, or type C would be like more of like a baboon, or what
Hmm.
we would call a gugwe, right? Or things like so. He took them and put them in different types, and I thought that was the coolest thing that he did, because maybe we have mistaken a dog man for a Sasquatch, and vice versa,
Hmm.
type of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
who
Yeah,
knows?
so interesting, man.
Yeah,
So, and even in the UK, there's a lot of Dogman reports, and again, it goes to what we were saying before
yeah,
about it's if it's here in the UK, it's probably more of a supernatural thing. And I've even got where I live a forest behind me where there's a devil dog law. They call it the devil dog, and
really.
I've even had some weird experiences that if it is that,
Wow,
it's supernatural. It's something
wow.
that's yeah. So
Well, the UK. That's where the history comes from.
yeah, werewolves. Yeah, man.
So I mean, you guys have so much folklore and lots of cool stuff, that have been pretty much transported,
Hmm.
to the U.S. type of thing, But you guys have some you
Yeah,
guys have some crazy
there's
stuff,
some weird
man.
stuff
Like,
going on. That's
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, man.
Have you
Super
been to
interesting.
Have you been to Australia at all?
I haven't. I'd like to go. I would like to
You
go.
know,
They got the
I
Yowie.
I yeah, I heard this Yowie encounter. not too long ago that was just insane. Like
What can you tell
um,
us?
this young man that had encountered this thing. It's you could tell it from his voice. It scarred him like deeply. Like he was just he had a hard time articulating, what he had seen, and I mean, wow, my heart goes out to him, man, because the guy seemed like he was just kind of struggling to really kind of tell the
Hmm.
story.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, and I don't know much about the mannerisms or the behavior of the Yowie, but I would say that a lot of it is consistent with the Sasquatch, or
Hmm.
even if you want to go into the in Asia, you got the Yeren, you got the Almasti, and Russia.
Hmm.
They all display the same behavior, the same mannerisms,
Yeah.
tree peeking, the
Hmm.
swaying back and forth, the
Yeah.
displaying of the teeth, the open mouth, right?
Hmm.
All of these are consistent behavior and mannerisms. And like I said previous, I think because of those behaviors and those mannerisms, you can say that these things really do exist because the consistency throughout every encounter and sighting is almost the
Hmm.
same.
Yeah. Yeah, for
You know,
sure. And I've always found that interesting how these things are literally reported all around the world and have
yeah,
been for years, for hundreds of
yeah,
years. Like these things go
yes,
back. The world is a lot more connected now.
yeah,
I mean, obviously, we don't know. History is very hard to tell what's real or not anyway, but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we seem to be more connected now than we've ever been before. Maybe, maybe not, but
yeah,
and these things have been in the history books and on cave drawings and
yeah,
legends and lore for forever in every country. So
yeah,
there's got
yeah.
yeah, there's got to be
And
something
it,
to it, man.
and it starts. It's some. I think you'll find that it starts with the native, indigenous population
Hmm.
of that country. They'll have stories. It's written off as folklore. Well, there's truth to folklore. It, it,
100%.
it, it came from truth, and
Hmm.
then it snowballed into something else, obviously, because as we tell stories, we add on things, we
Hmm.
take away things, stuff like that. But the core of it really, I believe, is from truth, right?
Hmm.
So, if you look at the Native Americans here in the U.S., there's stories about these creatures, Sasquatch. There's stories about of these of Native Americans trading with them, or
Hmm.
giving them sacrifices, or hey, we've got to kill, but we're gonna give you your part of it, to keep you at bay. Or there's stories of them going to war with these things. There's stories of these Sasquatch raiding some of these villages and taking women and children.
Hmm.
I fully believe that there was something else going on with that, because some of these encounters that I have heard from people telling the story, hunters, whatever, whoever it was that encountered the creature, some of them have said that the face looked Native American.
Yes, yeah, yeah, for sure.
So you can only assume there was some type of bloodline,
Hmm.
and it came from somewhere. And
Yeah,
if it looks Native American, guess what?
yeah, for
You can kind
sure,
of put
man.
that together, so
Yeah, and it's like what you were saying before about with these structures, and they're sort of
yeah,
like tangling plants together and
yeah.
connecting twigs and stuff. I mean, that sounds like primitive Native Americans. You know
It really
what they might have done.
it really does. And you're right. That's very interesting. If you look at the more prominent structures that are your TP structures that are tall, well, Native American tribes
Hmm.
made teepees.
Yeah, that shape.
And
Yeah,
now who got it from where? I don't know, but they kind of seem to kind of parallel each other
yeah, for
with
sure.
the structure and
Hmm.
things of
Same,
that nature. So
the same shape for sure.
yeah.
Super interesting,
Yeah.
man. Can I ask you how many sightings you've had in your area of Bigfoot and Dogman?
Oh,
Has there been a lot?
let's see. Not
Look,
not very many. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Excuse me. I'm going to pour a drink for myself real quick.
yeah, of course, man.
Uh, what I'll tell you is this. You know, and this is not a shot at any organization at all, by any means. But I think there's organizations out there that will only take certain encounters and document them, and that's it. Anything else that isn't, that doesn't fit inside of this,
Hmm.
null and void, right? I take some of these encounters that people have told me that are maybe a little far out there, and I'll listen to you. I'll believe you, because a lot of these people, they've got nothing to hide. They're not trying to gain anything from this.
Hmm.
I had well, let's start from the 70s. The Olivari family from 1972 in San Antonio here. There is a Air Force base that used to be here, very prominent Air Force base called Kelly Air Force Base. And I believe their neighborhood or their house, the area that they were at, butted up against a forested area, the backyard type of area.
Hmm.
And one of I think there's two or three brothers and a sister in the Olivari family. I do know one of the brothers, because he bought a T-shirt from me, and he's been a very big supporter of mine. So I'm
Awesome.
trying to do the story justice here. But if he gets to watch this, but so his older brother, William's older brother, had seen the creature walking through their area I think around their backyard, and saw it very well, and saw this hairy bipedal big creature just running through, or walking through their area. Freaked out and alerted the family, and told them what happened. And then they found footprints, and those footprints are actually documented in the newspaper that used to be here in San Antonio. It was called the San Antonio Light newspaper. It is no longer around, but there is a picture, and you could actually look it up, I believe, and you can see the sister with the print, right there, and she's looking up at the camera. See the footprint right there. They had an encounter with one of these creatures, and then I believe a neighbor in the same neighborhood had an encounter with a juvenile. This juvenile was, or alleged juvenile, I should say, was sitting on the back stoop of her house. I believe she was cooking. Looked out the window and saw this little hairy juvenile sitting on her back stoop, and saw it and shoot it away. Like no big deal. Like, get out of here.
Wow.
It looked up and saw her and was like, and then ran off. So that was reported as well. I believe, I want to say, and it could be wrong, I think John Green had gone down to go see that, or was it Renee DeHenden? I can't remember. One of the OGs came out and I guess asked questions and interviewed, I believe, maybe some of the residents there, and then later on down the line, more modern, it was 1970, more modern times, right? Ken Gerhard had gone down to that area to kind of get a lay of the land and check out, the area. And so you've got that. And then you've got other sightings that were, one of them was from a homeless couple, I believe in the 2000s, early
Hmm.
2000s, homeless couple up in West San Antonio, Northwest San Antonio. There is a highway that moves up into another highway that loops again around the city. And at that time, it was a very wooded area, very rural area. It wasn't really developed at all. And they had a tent. They were a homeless couple. They were, I guess, getting done with whatever they're doing, walking back into this wooded area where their home was, their tent. Got into the area of where their tent was and saw this hairy biped, I think munching down on a white-tailed deer. Saw them, screamed at them, stood up, grabbed the whitetail, and then ran off, took off. And the wife called 911. And I believe you can actually look up the 911 phone call. And she's asking for animal control. She
Wow.
thinks that it was some type of, ape or something that was escaped. And, she thought it was maybe an ape or something like that. And,
Hmm.
so they brought the police out there, and, they really couldn't do nothing because, couldn't find the creature. But they gave their eyewitness testimony, and and it's documented on the 911 phone call. And then beyond that, you've got the Tom Slick Foundation. Tom Slick was one of the first, one of the earliest cryptozoologists, I believe, monster hunters out there, and he is from San Antonio. The whole Slick, in fact, we still have the foundation, the Tom Slick Foundation in San Antonio, and it's a very closed off, where they do research and development. God knows what else is in there. I don't know, because it's fenced off. It's very heavily secure. You can't go in there without the right credentials, or unless you're an employee. They're very adamant about keep trespassers will be prosecuted, type of thing. So they're very serious. So you've got that, and you've got a creek, what's just called the Leon Creek, that I have also documented wood structures off of as well, that runs right into that Tom Slick Foundation campus. So again, the mind can wander, and you can go down a rabbit hole, but it's very interesting. And then I've got let's see, about 2 years ago, I had a gentleman, a friend of mine, who kind of took me under his wing and taught me a little bit about research and things like that. Older gentleman, and actually he introduced me to and brought me his other good friend, who was a wildlife biologist, who I had shown. I had taken him to my sites, to these wood structures, and shown him my trace evidence, and that wildlife biologist had no answer for me. He had nothing for me. He was like, I have no idea.
Interesting.
What did it? But when he looked at the stuff, though, the wheels were spinning. Like he was trying to rationalize,
and he couldn't. Yeah,
he couldn't. And so he had gotten a hold of me and said that he was trying to talk to a friend of a friend that got a hold of him and said, "Hey, I'm a nurse. I work the night shift, and I was coming home around it was 2-3 o'clock in the morning, on a very usually a very busy major road in San Antonio, and at that point in time, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, there's probably really nobody around, and she was going in an area where there is a wilderness park that is connected to that Leon Creek, where I've documented many structures. In fact, the biggest wood structure I've documented was in was in this park. And so she said she was driving, I believe, south on this road, running parallel to this park, kind of, not going real fast, but just kind of coasting a little bit, in the median, in the middle, one part this way, going this way, and then there's a thick grassy, tall grassy median, and then on the other side, the oncoming traffic, right? So she had said that when she was just kind of coasting by this wood line where this park was, this hairy looking fawn colored creature stood up out of the median, out of the grass, and just kind of casually just walked across the street. She stopped her car in disbelief. This thing just like nonchalantly just walked across, went into the wood line, turned around, grabbed the tree, and just stood there and stared at her. And then she said when she got her wits about her, she hit the gas. She was out. Like she couldn't believe what she saw. And she described it as like an 8-foot. I think the hair looked like maybe it was like 3 to 4 inches long. She said it was like a fawn colored looking type of creature. She didn't say much about the face. I was trying to get a hold of this lady, but she didn't want to talk, and which is understandable. I'm not going to press anybody on anything, And so so there's one.
Interesting. That's how a lot of people see these things, isn't it? In the car, like on the road. Yeah. You hear that a lot.
And take note of this. If it's at night, a lot of times you'll find that these things are being seen past midnight, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And a lot of them I've come to find out are seeing them around 3 o'clock in the morning, which is the witching hour.
Yes. Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah.
So if there's a connection, I don't know, but it's very interesting. But the last person I talked to, I get several people that have. In fact, there's still a couple of people that I need to call and
Hmm.
interview because they have had some strange activity and they've seen some crazy things that they only want to talk to me about.
Hmm.
Which is very very nice of them. But this one lady had gotten in contact with me who's a part of my group on Facebook, and she had seen a Sasquatch at the most, I think, southwest, right on the barely on the outskirts of San Antonio. There's a river, and it runs northwest, further north, but it goes down southwest as well, and it's called the Medina River. And she had her sister with her, and her sister had her daughter-in-law with her as well in the same car, and they thought they would take a nice drive. It was a nice day. I believe she said it was 2005 or four, sometime around, and it was I think it was around the springtime. It's still, I think it wasn't very hot. It was kind of cool. Um, so they would take a night. They want to take a nice stroll, and they went to this Medina River area, and the bridge that they were on, that they came up to, is a very famous bridge in folklore. It's called the Donkey Lady Bridge. And so, the Donkey Lady legend, I don't, you want to look that up? I,
Hmm.
I, I don't want to go into that, but so they kind of parked close in that area. And she said her car was facing and like like a more open area, like grassy area. So they were just sitting there, just kind of just hanging out, taking in the nice weather, and talking and stuff. And she said further out in front of her car, she didn't say exactly how many feet or yards, but she said a ways out there was some kind of I believe it was like and correct me if she gets to hear this, she may correct me. I think it might have been a mesquite tree or some type of bigger type of tree out there in this area. Well, she was just kind of just fixated on that tree, and all of a sudden she saw this arm come around this tree and grab this hand come around the tree and grab it, and then something stood up and then looked over at them around that tree. And she said it was a Sasquatch. She's like, I she's like,
Wow.
as clear as day, it was a Sasquatch. And I believe she was close enough because she told me it was a female. She saw the anatomy of the creature, and
Interesting.
she knew it was a female. It stood up, grabbed the tree, looked at them, turned and walked away from them, but to where she could still see the creature, its gait, its walk. She said it looked like it may have had some dark black, maybe I think she said it was a mixture like dark, blackish, reddish type of hair.
Hmm.
She said the sun was hitting it, things like that. It was longer
Wow.
hair. She said it walked like Patty. She said it looked like Patty. Like when it turned to look at
Interesting.
them, it looked like Patty. And she said, she saw breasts. She knew it was a female, and it disappeared behind some type of little shed, and didn't come back out, or whatever. And she said
Wow.
she said I locked eyes with it. I saw it. It locked eyes with me.
Wow.
And the same lady I was talking to, because I was interviewing her, and she had a dogman sighting, surprisingly enough, 2 weeks prior. Oh, not prior, but 2 weeks of when before I had talked, I was interviewing her.
Yeah.
And she said 2 weeks ago. I said, because here was the conversation. I said, I was taking in, everything about her Sasquatch sighting. I was like, man, this is great. And so I said, by any chance, have you seen an upright walking canine on two legs? And she said, yeah. In fact, I saw one 2 weeks ago. And I was like, what?
Wow.
And she said, if you don't believe me, my best friend is here that was with me. So I talked to both of them, and their stories just matched up with each other. They were
Wow.
in a smaller town right on the outskirts of San Antonio, and they took this back road. I guess I think they were eating at I think they want to say they were eating at a restaurant that was out there, or going to see family. And they took this road, this back road. It was dark, and they saw this. She said, all I remember was in the middle of this road was a huge looking wolf eating some roadkill. And she said, I remember thinking to myself, there's no wolves here in Texas, or in this part of Texas. There's no wolves here. Like, what? It's too big, way too big to be a coyote, a dog. It was huge. And she said this thing looked up at them, and she said the eyes were glowing yellow. It looked up at them, and when she locked eyes with this creature, she said it instantly instilled fear in me, and they were like frozen, And this thing looked up with these glowing yellow eyes, picked up the roadkill, and walked off on 2 feet away. And
Wow.
yeah, so and there's still people, like I said, that I'm going to contact, that
Hmm.
have had encounter with some type of creature, whether it's a dogman or a Sasquatch. So you
Man.
know we've got activity here. It's just not being publicized or talked about. And
Hmm.
and again, I don't push people to talk about anything they're uncomfortable with. That's not what I do.
Hmm.
If you want a sympathetic ear, I can be that person. If you want me to just take down the notes and what you saw, I can be that person. So if you want to talk, great. If you don't, I totally get it. It's cool. No worries. So but we do have activity, and there's some other documented activity that's in the BRFO website as well. So
Hmm.
I mean, we
Interesting, man.
we've now. Do I believe that these creatures are residing in San Antonio? I don't think so. I think
You
I
think
think
they're
we
moving
maybe
around?
yeah. I think it's more of a nomadic, and we just happen to catch these things as they're just.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
maybe it's seasonal, because I'll tell you this: during the summer, our summers are so brutal. 105, 107 degrees with high humidity. It's terrible. And so, what's interesting about everything that I do with documenting wood structures and trace evidence and things of that nature, around summertime, it just comes to a halt. Like there's nothing going on anymore during summer.
Interesting. So these
And
things
then,
are possibly moving on, and yeah.
yeah. And then the fall and winter and spring, it just kicks back up, and
Wow.
yeah, so really
Man, it's
interesting.
so interesting, man. And it's so lucky that we've got people like you that are so dedicated and especially to a certain area as well. Because you're
Yeah.
the information you're picking up and the data you're creating and saving is amazing. It's going to be so valuable.
I
So
hope so. I really do.
massive
And
respect to you, man.
thank you. Yeah. I just want to be hopefully I'm a little piece of the puzzle that helps connect, some things. And that's all I can think of. And,
Hmm.
I try my best to get out there and do as much as I can and document it. I've got hundreds and hundreds of documented pictures that, people may not ever see. I don't know. I'll put some more out there, but, you
Hmm.
know,
It's
I
so
think
cool, man.
the next thing has got to be the night investigation, though. I
Yeah,
have to.
yeah. You got to get out there, man.
Yeah.
Be safe. I don't want to. I
Yeah.
don't, be safe.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
don't go on your own.
Yeah. No, no.
I'd love to come out there sometime, man, and
Oh man.
come and check out your area and
If you ever in my neck of the woods, dude, you got
let's
a place.
go.
You got a place with me, brother.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm coming. I'm coming over.
You should. You should. You should.
But be safe though when you do it. And
Yeah.
I really love what you're doing, man. And I think it's so interesting. And
Thank you.
people like you are the reason why we can do this. So thank you so much,
Thank
man. Thank you.
thank you. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Is there a place that people can, obviously you're on social media. Is there a place
Yeah.
people can come to find you? Where's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
So if you really want to interact with me, I'm on Instagram a little bit more. The Facebook group that I have it's not that I don't interact. It's a private group.
Hmm.
So there's a couple of questions that you have to answer. and I do my best to try and what's the word, sift through. Yeah, there's in this game, and you probably know this, you have to have thick skin.
Oh man,
You have
yeah.
to I've had people just outright insult me, call me names,
Hmm.
don't even know me. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
for
I've had
sure.
people try to discredit what I do, try
Hmm.
to belittle, oh, that's just kids out there, you're dumb. I'm like, okay, great, cool.
Yeah,
You
you got to
know,
stay out there then,
uh,
man.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. But I have a Facebook group. It's Bear County Bigfoot, just like it, Bexar, Bear County Bigfoot.
Hmm.
I've got that. It's a private group, and you can get into that, and I'll kind of just look through your profile to make sure that you're okay, and you're not somebody that's going to troll and
Hmm.
disrupt things. I've got Bear County Bigfoot on Facebook. I've got South Texas Monster Hunters on Facebook. That's more of an open group as well. You could join that. And then I've got Bigfoot 101 on Facebook. We're closing in at almost 5,000 members as well. So you can get onto that. Bigfoot 101, South Texas Monster Hunters, and then Bear County Bigfoot on Facebook. Bear County Bigfoot on Instagram as well. And then Bear County Bigfoot on TikTok.
Awesome,
And
man.
if you really just want to send me an email, and the instant messaging thing, just you're not into, you can email me at Bigfoot at protonmail.com. Bear County Bigfoot at protonmail.com. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I will share the links in the show description so people can
Oh,
find
thank
you
you.
easily. And
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, man. I've loved this conversation. Bigfoot is one of my favorite topics. So I've been
Awesome.
very excited for this, man. So thank you so much.
Oh,
You're
thank you
welcome
for
back
having me.
anytime. You're welcome back
Oh,
anytime.
I would love to, man. I really would. Thank
Keep
you.
keep us posted when you go out there. Let us know what happens. And
You bet.
stay safe, brother, and keep up the great
Thank you.
work.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed the episode, share it where you can, because that is a great way to support us. It gets us out there to more people that enjoy the freaky conversations like you and me. If you'd like to be on the show, get in touch. Links and email is also in the show description, so you can find us easily. And we'll be back very soon for more freaky conversations. In the meantime, stay safe and keep it freaky. Bye for now. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.